Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of On Second Thoughts. I'm going to be reviewing hands that I played today. It's March 21st, so we're going to just jump right into some of the hands that I had questions about. First up, we're going to look at fives in this scenario. So this was today's session. You can see we won a little bit of money. I don't feel like I played great, which is why I am doing this now. Typically, the days that I don't play my best, I want to look and review the most. So that's going to be today. Let me pull up my hands that were uploaded on GTO Wizard so I can find these hands that I've marked. Gonna go to fives. So the first hand that we're gonna look at, this is an interesting one. Let's open it up. So we get dealt fives under the gun. We open at a high frequency. Villain, I believe, 3-bets us from the big blind. This is a low frequency call. Fives are going to be a high frequency open. And then because of that, we're going to have them a lot, but they are a weaker hand. So anytime you have like a pure open at the bottom of your range, you're going to be calling that a lot less than if we say open pocket twos under the gun, because pocket twos is opened at a very low frequency. And so if you were to just call all of the times that you opened pocket twos, you'd be fine. But because again, fives is a high frequency raise, you have to be careful not to overcall these combos. Because against a 3-bet from the big blind, fives and twos are virtually the same. You know, twos can sometimes get counterfeit on some extra boards, but for the most part, pocket pairs below fives are going to have the same value against a big blind 3-bet, since big blind's never 3-betting anything higher than, or lower, sorry, than sixes in this scenario. So if we take a look, we call. Let me just show you guys what I mean in the range. So if you look at the continuing range versus the 3-bet from big blinds. Oh, I take it back. Deuces is in fact a mixed fold as well. I thought we would actually pure call deuces if we did open them to a 3-bets from under the gun. Since under the gun, you can see we're only raising 35% with pocket twos, but it looks like we're going to just mix all of our pocket pairs here for calling a 3-bet all the way up to even jacks. So jacks down are all going to be mixing a call or fold, and then sometimes we're even 4-betting jacks, 10s, 9s, and 8s. But the pocket pairs below 7s, those are all just going to be about a 20% to like 40% mix around there. So flop comes Jack 9-7. This is a good texture for us. We're going to have a lot of this board. We're going to have a lot of medium pocket pairs, as you just saw, for mixing at a frequency. We're going to have pocket queens. We're going to have jacks. We're going to have all of the strong hands on this texture. Big blind is going to have a lot of strong hands as well, but I think you can't just bet your range out of the big blind here. So I think you're going to see a lot of checking from the big blind on this particular flop, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see. Yeah, 64% check. That is a high frequency check. And if the big blind does want to bet, it looks like it uses the large sizing or the medium sizing, and it polarizes more with the range. So using hands that have a lot of equity or over pairs that are very vulnerable on this particular board texture. Of course, we have some like pair plus combo draws, etc. Those are all going to be put into that larger sizing. So a villain does like to check, and this combo, because we don't have too many low pocket pairs for calling, as we can see when we're looking at the range, we're actually mixing a lot of those hands now that I know that. It makes more sense to be bluffing with these at a certain frequency because they're going to be the bottom of our range. We're not going to have them too often. There is some value for betting for protection against something like ace king, ace queen, hands like that, which, you know, we don't want to see a turn against. So I like this small bet here, which is what I elected to do. Turn is an ace, so pretty bad card for us, but actually the solver wants to almost nearly always bluff this turn. And again, it's hard to find a lot of bluffs, especially under the gun versus a big blind 3-bet pot. Low pocket pairs are going to be where we derive a lot of our bluffs on a turn like this. We don't ever have a single heart in our range. Maybe we have like some ace queen offsuit or ace king offsuit, but obviously that has now, turned a pair. And so we don't have any offsuit combos with a heart. We do have some like low pocket pairs or mid pocket pairs with a heart, but those rather not bluff. I think those are mostly going to just check back at a high frequency. So if you take a look on the turn here, after the big blind checks, I don't think we're going to be, oh, looks like we're actually going to be betting a lot with a lot of different combos. I take it back. So it looks like we can, in fact, use a lot of some of these mid pocket pairs. This is why I'm studying and looking at my own play, because I underestimated how often we're going to be betting this turn specifically. Yeah, so we have a lot of pocket eights with a heart or no heart. Pocket sixes, same idea. A heart is actually going to check slightly more often, I think, because it just wants to realize equity and see a river. Whereas the sixes without a heart, that's just not really going to have a lot of showdown value. And we can also get a lot of the better hands to fold if we start turning this into a bluff. So you can see that you can see that the solver is going to classify these low pocket pairs as their trash hands, which means if we want to polarize on this turn, we're going to use a lot of these trash hands like low pocket pairs as our bluffs. And like I said earlier, there's not too many offsuit combos, if any, other than the pairs that have a heart in their range. So you can see, yeah, most of the trash hands are going to be the low pocket pairs, and then the best hands, of course, are going to be anytime we have a flush or a set. That's going to be a larger bet too, or a medium bet, I should say, in this scenario. So yeah, I should have bet 50 or 33 here, but I decided to check. And then by the river, I end up just checking back and showing down. But in the solver wants to bet turn and bluff the river. So there's going to be a lot of bluffing. Sorry, I keep opening that one. There's going to be a lot of bluffing if we bet the turn for half pot and the river's a 4. I think we're like shoving nearly all of our weak hands that we ended up betting turn with. Yeah, so see all these low pocket pairs here. You can see now by the river, we're going to either have trash hands or best hands most of the time. And a lot of the trash hands are going to be the ones down here that are throwing in a bluff. Pocket 3s, pocket 2s, 5s, 6-5 suited, which just has 6 high, and pocket 6s. So 5s is the perfect hand to put into that bluffing range. Surprisingly enough, it's one of those scenarios where blockers aren't going to be as relevant. Like having 5-5, I'm not really blocking too many combos here for calling the river. But what I am doing is I'm unblocking a lot of the folds. So villain's going to have hands like kings, queens, 10s, 10-9 suited. All of these combos that check call turn are going to be in a tough spot by the river, right? So the combos that are mostly calling, it's really difficult to block these hands, right? It's hard to have a 10 of diamonds in your hand without having some other equity. It's hard to have a queen of hearts in your hand without having, showdown value with pocket queens. So this is why I think we see this really polarized range on the river for under the gun for shoving, just because it's one of those scenarios where it's hard to have those blockers. So the solver typically just shoves trash hands and then the best hands. So interesting spot there. Next up is pocket 4s. I wanted to take a look at this one. So I can just filter for pocket 4s. This is all of the hands that I've uploaded today. There we go. Okay. So big blind versus button. Big blind calls. And flops king 7-2. Clubs, we do nothing other than check call. This is a medium strength hand, a pair plus a club draw. Turn gonna check, and we once again mix in a check call. I wasn't sure if we could get away with check calling at a high frequency or if this was gonna be a mix, and it does look like that the solver wants to fold it at a frequency on the turn, so that again we just don't get to the river with too many weak hands, because this doesn't really have a lot of showdown value. It might have some, which is why we're seeing the call here, but it's not a hand that we're really happy about getting to the river with. So the river ended up coming a club, and I just checked, and villain checks back with queen 8, a hand I wasn't really expecting. But on my side, I think that was well played. If we get to the river and it bricks off, let's say an offsuit 3 or something like that, I think pocket 4s are mostly going to check fold, but I just want to make sure that once we get to the river, it's not going to be something that we're using as a bluff catch. Okay, so pocket 4s does sometimes call. It looks like we can bluff catch against the large size, the 60% size here. But if we use what the solver wants to go with, which I think is an overbet, you can see here there's a lot of 150 and all in here for the river bet. So if we do use the 150 bet, does the 4s with the club still want to mix a call? And the answer is yes. It is still relevant, right? Because we are blocking the 4 of clubs, which blocks ace 4 of clubs, 4-5 of clubs. I don't think, yeah, queen 4 of clubs is going to be in the range for the button. Jack 4 of clubs, there's a lot of flushes that we're in fact blocking for this large size. So if we highlight the 150 size here, we can see that reflected like I was saying. Jack 4 of clubs, queen 4 of clubs, ace 4 of clubs. 4-5 of clubs doesn't seem to be in that range for overbetting. Maybe that one wants to go a little smaller. Yeah, it looks like 5-4 of clubs might want to size down there. Or maybe they don't take this line on the flop turn. Maybe they mix a smaller sizing or something like that. I don't know. There's a lot of, yeah, a lot of 50% sizing on turn instead of 75. 75 is going to polarize a bit more with some of the stronger combos like we saw there, ace 4, queen 4, etc. So yeah, I can even use this as a bluff catch on a brick runoff, which is pretty cool. Let's look at queen 10 of clubs. So this is a hand I was curious to see if what sizing I should use on the turn. I think this is a spot where I may have used a small sizing when I should have used a large sizing on the turn. So it went check, check, and I elected to go for the small sizing. I think that is the case here. The solver mostly wants to go 50 or 75, even some overbets or check, but not the small sizing. So I wanted to look at the range for what we're going to do here, not just the particular hand combo. So maybe the range has a small sizing, but we just don't do it with queen 10. Nope, it looks like we're mostly going to go bigger sizing, but most of all, we're going to be checking. So important to have a high frequency of check here on the turn. I thought about that in game, but I decided to take an aggressive action. And if I do take an aggressive action in this scenario, I should be using the 75 or larger sizing most of the time. So I ended up betting. They ended up raising, which was peculiar. Didn't expect that. And then the river, we made the boat, and they checked back jacks. So I thought it was a little interesting to see that there. But I guess jacks can in fact raise if I use the small size on the turn. If I use the 50 or the 75, I think jacks then starts to pure call. Yeah. So a little fishy that someone knows that this is going to be a raise very thinly against only the small size with jacks, but there it is. Next hand, I wanted to look at a7 of spades, so we're going to filter for that one. And this was the scenario I wanted to look at. We open the cutoff. Big blind calls, jack 6-4. This is a good board to c-bet because of all of the backdoors we have here. Backdoor spades, blocking a 7 of spades, which blocks a lot of their check raises, so it's a good combo to be betting on the flop. I could also check as well, but I chose an aggressive action this time. I went with the 75% sizing. I also could have went the 33 or the 50. All of those are fine. And then on the turn, I looked to continue betting, but this is just too wide. I think the solver is going to prioritize having something like 10-9, a stronger straight draw, something like hearts that has a good flush draw, something maybe with like 2 overs to the jack with like a heart, something, maybe a king queen with the king of hearts or something like that elects to triple barrel sometimes. I think the ace-7 of spades is less of a hand we want to be using as a bluff. Ace high might even have some small portion of showdown value. I don't really think so, but realizing equity on the river is nice. We do have a gut shot straight draw. We could hit an ace. We could hit a 7. So I think on the turn, the cutoff's going to want to have more equity for turning our hand into a bluff. If we take a look at the 75% sizing and highlight the weak and trash hands, I think we're going to see a lot of heart draws. Yes, a lot of heart draws. And then also we have weaker combos to turn into bluffs with the queen high and the king high. And these also double as a blocker to queen jack and king jack, right? Whereas villain isn't going to have a lot of ace jack suited. They're going to be 3-betting that a lot pre-flop. So having an ace in our hand isn't as powerful as having a queen or a king in terms of blocker effects. And like I mentioned, king high and queen high have less showdown value than ace high. So anytime there's like a group of weak hands or trash hands, the solver is going to always pick the worst parts of those hands that also have some kind of relevance of a blocker. So in this case, the queen high and the king high are worse than the ace-7. So they're going to be prioritized as a bluff on the turn. Unless we have, of course, the hearts combo. But you can see here we have some king 5 of spades, king 7 of spades, queen 7 of spades, queen 5 of spades. Those are going to be the ones we're looking to bluff. And like I mentioned earlier, 10-9 suited is going to be a great combo for bluffing turn, as well as something like king queen with 2 overs and a heart, like king queen, king of hearts. These are all good combos to turn into bluffs. They don't have any showdown value with king high or queen high. And we're unblocking the folds of ace high, right? That's the other thing that we haven't considered yet, is that when we're holding ace high, it's less likely villain has a weak ace high that's going to fold the turn. Whereas when we have king high and queen high, then we're going to likely have a lot of folds on the turn that, that we're losing to at the present time. So that's a big bonus too for picking those combos. It's important to pick them carefully on turn river. I ended up betting and I got a fold anyway, but yeah, that was the wrong combo to bluff with. Let's take a look at the next one, 5-4 suited. This is actually a pretty cool one. Hands 5-4 suited. So it looks like I made a mistake here. 5-4 suited is a 3-bet against under the gun from the hijack, so we go for it at a frequency. I rolled an aggressive number. Under the gun calls, pretty good flop for us. 5-3-2. We got the pair and the straight draw. A lot of betting half pot here or checking. Checking is also really good because obviously we just have a lot of equity and realizing it is great. Yeah, so betting half pot is good. Turn, I was hesitant to bet the turn because I didn't want to bet and get jammed on. We have so much equity that I don't think we could bet fold. So unless the solver is really happy bet calling, I think we're going to see a lot of checking here. But I don't think that's the case. The solver does want to just bet 75 at a high frequency, which leads me to believe that the solver is going to bet call if villain jams. And like I said, we have a ton of equity, so we really shouldn't be afraid to bet the turn here, like I was in the moment. And that's why I checked back. But yeah, I should have mostly bet the 75 sizing. Oh, just loading 1 second. There we go. Yeah, so we should have bet the 75 sizing. Check is still okay, just a very low frequency check. So it wasn't a blunder, but I should lean more towards aggression on the turn because, like I said, I think if villain does jam, there's no shot we're going to be folding 5-4 of clubs. Pretty slam dunk call. So yeah, don't be afraid of betting large if you know you're supposed to call versus the check raise. I didn't know. That's why I checked back. So a hand like, let's say queen jack of clubs, right? That might be a bet, and then you're going to have to fold to the bet, to the jam if you do use the large sizing bet. So that's why sometimes maybe we could check back queen jack suited. I don't know. I don't know if this is a pure, yeah. So we see a lot of, well, not a lot, but we see some checking back with the queen jack suited, for I think the reason I just mentioned. So that's kind of a way to find some good spots to check back. So like king jack of clubs, right? This is a great one to check back because we could realize our equity checking back, hitting a king, a jack, or a club. Yeah. So it's really, you want to make sure that you're gonna bet call if you do bet large on the turn with equity like this. Then I end up rivering the flush, which was pretty awesome. Villain checks, and then I wasn't really sure what sizing to go. I should have just bet the 60%. That's what I probably would have done if I had ace king as well. I wasn't sure what sizing I wanted to use for ace king, and so that's why I bet 1/3. But I think ace king. Oh wow, ace king's just going all in here. Is that real? That's strong? Okay. Looks like we're dividing our range. Wait, hold on. Oh. Under the gun. I was looking at under the gun. Sorry, wrong position. Yeah, ace king. Okay, this is much better. 60% bet. Okay. Yeah, 60% bet. That's what I figured. If ace king is doing that, then I should be doing that with some of my strong hands as well, to keep balanced here. And you can see 5-4 suited. If we do have it by the river, we should have bet the turn a lot. Instead, we checked back. But if we do have it by the river, we're going to use that 62% sizing. So too small of a sizing there. Villain ends up calling with pocket tens, which is actually a great bluff catcher to have in this scenario, blocking all the flushes, of course. So I probably would have gotten paid if I bet 60% as well. Let's look at another one. Yeah, this was an interesting one. So 9-7 offsuit. Okay, so pre-flop, we can call or fold. I thought I could actually 3-bet, so good thing I didn't do that. Oh, is this? No, this is 100 big blinds. Okay, this is solved for 100 big blinds because this player is a little short, but that's okay. Flop 10-7-4. I just check, or I just call here versus the half pot bet. Turn, I just call again. There's not much else we can do. And now the river comes and villain downsizes. And in my mind, it's a funny phrase. I thought that we had a really good bluff catcher because we're blocking 9-8, we're blocking 7-7, we're blocking 7-6, we're blocking a lot of good combos here. And villain should have some like missed diamonds perhaps, or maybe like I don't know, queen 9 of clubs as their bluff. I'm not too sure what exactly their bluffs would look like, but I thought this was a good one to have for a call, and so I ended up calling. However, villain showed up with Jack 10 offsuit, and I felt like they shouldn't have had Jack 10 offsuit there. I thought that was very thin for value because we have a lot of straights, we have a lot of 2-pair. This is like the absolute nut low combo that we're gonna call, I think. So I was surprised that they showed up with Jack 10 there, but yeah, I don't think they should have had it at that point. On the flop, Jack 10 is mostly going to check or bet small, I think. So that already kind of deviates from what the solver is going to do at a high frequency. It's mostly going to bet small. Villain bet half pot, but that still happens, so that's still fine. But then on the turn, I don't think Jack 10 really wants to be betting. This isn't a hand you want to triple barrel, because it's a really medium strength hand. This is a really good card for me on turn. So I think villain was just kind of stabbing in the dark here, thinking Jack 10 might be good for value, but it was too wide. And so if they are going to get to the river with Jack 10, my call becomes a lot worse, because they're going to have more medium strength hands that we're losing to for the smaller sizing. But in reality, they should have some small sizings on the river. And I think that's going to come from a mix of bluffs from like 8 high, or not 8 high, I'm sorry, 8x or 9x. Not 8x, 8x is a straight. So 9x is going to be a really good bluff for them, I think. And we are blocking some of the bluffs with our 9. So yeah, hard to find some good, here, hold on. Let's take a look. What are their trash hands here? Yeah, so like I thought, a lot of 9x is going to be part of their bluffs. So blocking this isn't the best thing in the world. They're also going to have some 5x, it looks like. So they're turning a pair into a bluff. But most of the bluffs are going to come from this 9x camp here. So yeah, again, I don't think having a 9 in my hand is great for bluff catching if I'm blocking a lot of their bluffs. So that's why I'm not just pure calling the river. I'm mixing a call on the river. Yeah. All right. What else do we got? Pocket fives. Okay. This was a hand that I got overbet against. So we open hijack, early position, and big blind calls, flop 984. We decide to check back. A lot of showdown value with this hand, kind of like a weak to medium strength hand that we don't want to start bluffing because it doesn't have much other equity for it. It's just kind of a weak hand that wants to see showdown. So we check back and then we get overbet. And I thought that I would have a lot of combos that I could continue with here with the double flush draw that are going to be prioritized over fives. So I ended up folding, and I just wanted to double check to see if this was correct to fold. I thought maybe I could like peel here, but yeah, too weak to call in this scenario. And sevens, this is an interesting one. I take a liberty, I think, of getting out of line. Yeah, this is a little out of line. So pre-flop button, we call versus an under the gun raise. And flop comes ace king 2. We float. We're not supposed to float a lot with this combo, but we can once in a while call. Turn a 10, I decide to check back. Again, going back to that idea of when you have a bunch of weak hands in your range, the solver is going to want to pick the worst ones in that range. So if we have pocket pairs on the turn here, I think the solver is going to want to pick 3s and 4s and 5s to bluff with instead of 7s. So if we take a look at the range, we can confirm that. And that is in fact true. So you can see 3s here, 4s, 5s, even 6s are mixing a bet here. 7s is when you start to see it dwindle. But even some 7s are still going to be betting. And then once you get to 9s, that's just going to be the perfect medium strength hand that you don't want to be putting into a bluffing range. But all of these pocket pairs, I think 8s and lower, are going to fall into our trash hands. So again, the solver loves to use these trash hands as bluffs when it's hard to have any kind of blockers, especially on high card boards like this. So I ended up checking. So I found the right check for bluffing the turn, so that's good. But then on the river, I ended up going for the bluff, which, yeah, again, I just rather use those low pocket pairs. If we do check the turn, again, we're going to be at the river with the same low pocket pairs, and these are all going to want to turn themselves into a bluff. Representing a king by using the overbet, the 132 sizing. 7s are mostly going to be checking here, but it looks like we can bluff with some of them, 60% sizing, but yeah, mostly we want to pick the 6s and lower. All right, let's go over one last combo. So ace king offsuit. This was actually a cool one that I have no idea if I played correctly. Oh, interesting. I did play it correctly. Okay. So ace king offsuit, we 3-bet out of the big blind versus the cutoff. Flop queen 8-7. We're mostly going to be betting a third or half pot on this board, I believe. Let's take a look. Yeah, we're mostly going to be betting half pot or a third and then check. Mostly just half pot or check. And ace king is just a mix. It's kind of good, blocking a lot of strong hands. Yeah. So I ended up checking here, but then once villain bet, I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I found a check raise because I thought this is not a bad hand to turn into a bluff. We're blocking ace queen, we're blocking king queen, we're blocking aces, we're blocking kings if they ever have those. And so yeah, I decided to check raise this combo. Also has a lot of equity when called. If villain has something like jacks or tens or 8x or something like that, we still have equity versus those combos. So I decided to go for the check raise. And we turned the king, which I thought was an awesome card, but I wasn't sure what to do. So I just jammed because I thought, okay, I'm going to have a lot of some semi-bluffs that are going to want to jam and get max fold equity here, right? Like if I had something maybe like 10-9 suited that mixes a check raise in, I don't know. But combos like that can probably jam turn for max fold equity, it's good to have some really strong hands as well. But we could also mix with a small sizing. So I could have went for the small sizing as well. Having the ace of clubs, I think I'm more incentivized to go for the small sizing because I don't need as much protection from backdoor like floated draws like ace jack of clubs when we're blocking the ace of clubs. So I think the solver likes to use the small sizing at a mix, but if we take a look at our full range, we'll probably see that we can have some drawing hands on the turn, maybe something like Jack 10 of some kind. I don't know. Let's take a look. So what are our all-ins as a bluff? We can go to the trash hands or the weak hands, and we can see, in fact, that, yeah, Jack 10, 10, 9, we can just take this line sometimes on the turn with jam, which is pretty cool. And then the 33% size is going to be used by the non-club version of the straight draws, right? But mostly we're going to look to jam when we have the clubs plus the draw. Yeah, any kind of backdoor club draws, those are the ones that are going to prioritize the jam, including hands like ace-5 suited that we could check raise flop with too. Pretty cool. Fun spot, interesting scenario. I hope you guys enjoyed the hand review. This has been on second thought. If you guys do want to see more of these, please like and subscribe and comment below which hand you thought was really interesting. Maybe something you would have never thought about before. Maybe bluffing with low pocket pairs could be new to you. That's definitely a cool concept. Yeah, please share, and I'll see you on the next video. All right, guys. Peace.